Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chapter Mac. Today's quite a different episode, as all my previous episodes with different friends and people like that, they've all been based around personal experiences and sort of stuff that's happened in their individual life. And they've been really nice and sort of open enough to come and talk to me about it and sort of put their story out there. Whereas today we're joined by a lady that I've known for about 3 and a bit years now, met through where I work currently. And she's going to offer a bit of a different perspective, as she's actually qualified in different areas of mental health and sort of health in general. So today's guest is Rachel Callister. So welcome, Rachel.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
That's all right. Like I just said, I really wanted someone to come on, one who I knew personally, but someone that could just offer a more of a professional sort of input into the whole mental health area, so we shall we say, and obviously where we know each other as well, I thought you'd be the perfect person to come on and just talk a little bit more about it.
And listening to the podcasts that you've done so far have been brilliant. Sort of people being able to share their personal experiences, and you making that connection with them to share that experience to help them with that grieving process or whatever situation they were in. So that's been really good.
I'm glad you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, they have. And in terms of a professional point of view, I'd far from say I was professional in it in mental health. I'm not a counsellor. I'm not that end. I deal with the first aid for mental health. Sort of my work background, I did a sports degree and went into sports management, personal training, apprenticeships. But I've been first aid training for 16 years now. And with yourself at the sports centre, lifeguard training for 7. So that's really flown by. 7 years doing that. But it was a couple of years ago, I got approached, would you do first aid for mental health? And my initial concerns were, I'm not a counsellor, I haven't got that professionalism, that expertise in those fields. How could I help? So I wasn't sure, but went along, obviously with my background of your first aid training, went along, did the course with a number of other trainers, and it was fantastic, really, really good. Really opens your eyes into thinking about your own mental health as well as everybody else's. And from a real first aid point of view, I mean, you can link with first aid thinking, well, if somebody falls over and hurts themselves, we think about the history, the signs and the symptoms. So we think about history. Well, what have they done? How did they do it? Falling over. The signs. What can we see? Have they grazed their knees? Is there blood? Have they broken any bones? And then the symptoms, how are they feeling? They might be in pain, crying, things like that. And if I link it to that side of things, when you then think about mental health, you can think about the history. Like myself and you, what's the history? Well, our history is our workplace for a number of years. And then the history that we knew that your mum was ill. So you've got that little bit of history. Or you might have history where people have got a past where they've been struggling with drink, drugs, whatever it is. Well, there might be no history. And then you go on to the signs. Well, what can you see in somebody? So you might end up just seeing somebody's personality change, or you might see them start getting withdrawn, or the complete opposite, they might start coming out of themselves, and you notice changes. So whether you're a friend, family, work colleague, you might just notice things in people that are slightly different. And then symptoms, how are they feeling? Well, you might not know how they're feeling unless you actually talk. So a big emphasis on the sort of first aid for mental health is about talking, starting conversations, listening.
I mean, going on to our first episode, obviously you know Callum and Alex through work as well. Something they mentioned was they, after now seeing me go through what I went through, and where they hadn't known me with my mum alive, they actually said that now looking back, they probably didn't ever know me without depression. I just had it so compressed and sort of buried deep inside me. And then they said that when it all sort of come out that I was depressed, they then actually looked back and thought, hang on a minute, I started to see changes in you that probably weren't noticeable because I wasn't looking for them. But now I know something was wrong. I now could see that there was difference in you. There was a sort of a personality difference from you being laughing and joking all the time to actually now quite reserved and miserable a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely something you obviously got to look for is them little signs that sometimes, obviously, like you said, when someone falls over and they bang their head, it's quite
Mm-hmm.
obvious they've got a cut on their head. That's what their problem is. But when your problems are buried quite deep inside you, you don't. They're not really as obvious unless you really look for them, which I do think more people should make sort of a conscious effort to look at their friends in a little bit more of a not so blinkered and sort of a bit of a wider picture and try and if you ask them if they're all right and they say yeah, think well, maybe I'll ask you, maybe I'll ask again. Don't just take yeah for an answer and sort of move on.
Because the very British way is we'll always say yes. Are you
Yeah.
okay? Yes, and they're just the natural response.
Mm.
But it's what words come next
Yeah.
that then
Exactly. You think the amount of times you'll walk past someone and you might know, you say, all right, and they say, yeah, and just carry on walking. If they hadn't have said, yeah, you wouldn't have stopped to say, oh, what's wrong? It's just I think people
yeah,
say you're all right as like a passing comment so many
definitely.
times now without actually asking, are you all right?
And if somebody says no, it actually puts somebody on the back foot and in
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
shock.
exactly.
Say, oh no, I don't know what to
Yeah.
say now.
Oh, actually, I was only saying hello. I haven't got time for a chat actually, and carry on
Yeah,
walking.
yeah. And Callum and Alex said about when they were looking at the signs, sort of you talking about the signs of yourself. Well, there's then the elephant in the room. Do you talk about it or don't you talk about it?
Yeah.
Uh, and I think it's just building up that relationship with people so that you've got the trust in each other so you can talk about it.
Mm.
Um, or just being a stranger, and actually some people can open up to somebody they don't know very well easier.
Mm.
And it's just those leading questions that might be able to help you discuss that elephant in the room
Yeah.
almost. um,
Yeah, I actually funny you say that because I found talking to a doctor who I sort of knew but didn't really know. I found it a lot more, a lot easier to talk to her and just really let everything out to her than I did my closest friends and family. But I felt that she had absolutely no judgment at all. So if I told her that I was thinking of killing myself, I knew that she wouldn't have been judging me. Whereas if I told my sister that or my dad that, I knew straight away they would have been, their eyes would have lit up and they'd be mortified. Which
yeah,
so I do think sometimes that's why I've always said there's no shame in going and speak to a doctor about it because I just found it so
yeah,
much easier to talk to them because I just didn't feel judged at all.
yeah. And being judged is a big thing within mental health. There's sort of all the stigmas around there that, oh no, if I've got mental health issues, will it affect my work position? Does it mean I'm going to get the sack? Does it mean this, that, and the other?
Mm,
So actually talking about it is a big, brave move. And the TV, social media really helps break down some of those barriers. And we've seen, I think, a few months ago, we saw the TV with Freddie Flintoff,
mm,
where he was. Did you see the one where it was living with bulimia?
yeah,
So a really good one to show that he's going through lots of issues in life, and his teammates never knew about it.
yeah. And you
Well,
looking at him as well, you wouldn't look at him and think, oh, he could be someone that suffers with any
yeah,
sort of disorder or anything like that. People have this sort of image that the only people that could suffer
yeah,
with mental health problems are people that they might be overweight or not popular or so. They just have this
mm,
thing that they seem to think that famous people can't have mental health problems because they're famous. Men can't have it because they're men. So it sort of leaves you with this feeling
who
when you
does?
think, well, hang on, then who can have it?
Yeah, yeah. So it's all these. So that's where it comes down to everyday life. We've all got stresses and strains in life. And I like the little quote that people used to say, "We're in the same boat."
Mm,
But actually, we're not in the same
No,
boat.
there's loads of different boats.
Um, yeah, we're in the same storm,
Yeah,
especially at the
yeah,
moment with the COVID pandemic. We're all riding that same storm. We're like almost from our swimming background, like riding the wave
yeah.
of emotions as we're going through lockdown. But it's our coping strategies and how we cope with it that's really important. Um, so yeah, we're all in that same storm, but we're all in a different boat. Everybody's dealing with COVID in a different way. Everyone's got a different household.
Mm,
How many people in the household? What ages are in the household? Are they working? Are they not working? Are they on furlough? Are they not getting paid? Have you got primary age
yeah.
children trying to homeschool, secondary age, or college ones that you're trying? So everybody's situation is different.
Mm.
Our common goal is we're in lockdown. But yeah, situations are different. So
I think as well, obviously, like you just said about everyone's situations being different. Like for myself, I'm at home on my own now from 7 o'clock in the morning till about 5, 6 o'clock in the evening, just because everyone in my household is still working. So for me, I get quite stressed at just the fact that I've got no one to interact with all day. I get a bit lonely during the day. Whereas
mhm,
then someone else could be the complete opposite, who's got everyone in their household at home, all under each other's feet, and they might be feeling quite stressed because everyone's there and they've got no personal space and anything like that. So, two very different sort of situations, but the similar outcome is whatever the reason is, you're feeling a bit stressed about it.
it's causing that sort of that stress, that anxiety,
Exactly.
um, and all the time you can cope with those stressing anxieties. You're sort of almost just riding the wave.
Mm,
You've got your highs, you've got your lows, but you just keep on going.
mm,
But obviously, it's when that bubbles over and goes to the extremes that it then might give people those periods of low and heading into
mm.
depression,
Yeah,
which
I
can
mean,
obviously
it wouldn't surprise me if being say someone had lived on their own for this whole time and they sort of missed out a lot on social interaction. It wouldn't surprise me if then when everything gets brought back to normal a little bit and you can start going out more and seeing friends, that could actually give them anxiety in going to see people again because they've been on their own for so long and now they're actually a little bit anxious about seeing friends and other family members and things like that.
yeah, yeah. And it is time as well. I mean, you know what I was like before lockdown. I sort of cram everything into my
Mm,
day, 6 a.m., 9 o'clock at night,
yeah.
just non-stop all the time. So sort of lockdown's given me chance to, okay, I haven't been able to work as much as I did before. But it just slows you down a little bit and does make you think about where your goals are in life at the moment or in the future, and how we can still keep making those connections with family and friends,
Mm,
but physically not seeing them.
mm,
Um, and obviously, doing this on Zoom has been a brilliant way for
yeah.
family and friends
Yeah,
to
yeah. Every Saturday recently, I've been doing. We had a quiz 2 weeks ago, a family quiz, and then last week we done bingo,
excellent.
which is quite fun. And yeah, I think things like Zoom are probably they've never received, had so many users on Zoom or any platforms like that since this lockdown. But
And it's crazy, really, because we had this technology before lockdown. We had Zoom,
mm,
WhatsApp videos, Messenger videos, and all of
just didn't
those.
use
But
it as much.
no, because you were seeing people face to face. So I
Yeah,
think it's brought out a really nice side of technology,
mm,
where people can connect, and where people will maybe, I don't like the children on social media and on their gaming for so long,
mm,
but actually if they're doing their gaming but they're online with friends,
yeah.
they've got interaction.
Yeah, exactly. I think me and Alex and Callum spoke about that before about the sort of image around going on the PlayStation and the Xbox, things like that, and parents not liking it. But at the minute, that could be their only form of interacting with their friends. So as long as it's sort of done in moderation, I think it could actually be a quite a positive thing for parents to let their kids.
Lifeline of normality to the outside
Yeah,
world, isn't it?
exactly. Yeah. But
Yeah, so
just going back to what we were speaking about earlier, obviously, say for example, a parent or someone who's got I don't know a couple of friends, or whatever, is listening to this now, and they want to know that their friend's all right and their son or daughter's all right. So in your opinion, Rachel, what sort of things should people be looking out for in someone, whether it's a change in personality or just things they're doing, differences, anything like that? What sort of things should people be looking out for?
I think from mental health, obviously, people are getting a lot of things pushed their way in terms of mental health, mindfulness,
Mm,
and looking after yourselves. I would say, from a first aid point of view, having the back of your mind history, signs, and symptoms to what people are like normally.
mm,
And then physically, are you noticing any changes? Um, and it might be commenting, oh, somebody's grown a beard a bit
mm,
more, or things like that. Is it just because they're growing a beard through lockdown, or are they now not taking care of
mm,
themselves? So there's different ways to interpret things,
mm.
as well. But just starting conversations, just talking, can really, really help. Um, and what you've done really well over the last few podcasts, through that talking, it's not just our general chit chat, it's actually you've made real connections with people.
Mm.
um, and by making that connection, sometimes it allows people to open up a little bit more, and you
Yeah.
might just trigger something, so that they can open up more and sort of share their emotions of what they're thinking at the time or have been thinking.
Mm.
And I think, I know I used to be a bit sort of frightened if I said something, are you opening up a can of worms and are you going to make it worse? um, and then I haven't got the skills or the know-how as how to take it if we
Yeah.
suddenly opened up a can of worms.
Yeah.
But actually, the fact that you've taken interest in somebody and you have asked them those questions that might seem a little bit awkward at the time, most scenarios, the person that is suffering in some way would actually really appreciate that,
Mm.
because somebody's noticed them, somebody's made that connection by putting themselves in their shoes, or just taken some time out for them, and given them that support, and the conversation just tends to flow a little
Yeah.
bit. Whatever things are brought out of the conversation, you can then think about, how can I support you now? You've just told me that, um, let's have an example. What might somebody be stressed about? Think of something COVID wise.
Um, Going back to school.
Okay, going back to school. So if they were worried, we can think, okay, is there something that the two of us can do together to get you prepared for going back to school?
Mm.
Can I then contact some of their teachers to let the teachers know that that child's got some anxieties going back to school, so that transition might be a bit easier?
Mm.
So you're starting to involve other people.
Mm.
um, Maybe it's they are in a really bad way and they really can't go back to school because of the anxieties of, well, COVID's still out there.
Yeah.
How can going back to school help, especially if, your children might have some sort of autistic tendencies as
Mm.
well? That fear of going back to school is huge.
Yeah, definitely.
um, and we might not understand that fear fully, so we need the support of them to help us understand
Mm.
and to know where to go for help. um, so it might be that small bit of help where you can go to your teachers, or it might be signposting that actually we need to go to the GP
Mm.
and get more professional help and signpost you on the way of, counselling and different things. But we always hope that a lot of the stresses and anxieties that are caused in sort of general life, we can cope with minimal intervention from counsellors. But like you say, the doctors are always there,
Yeah.
and they can support to know whether you just need somebody different to talk to,
Mm.
or
Yeah.
whether you do need that medication.
Yeah.
Or,
I've found sometimes as well that it's talking to someone outside of your little circle of friends or family. It just makes you get sort of different perspective on what's going on in your own head as well. Like just talking to someone fresh and different. I mean, it might have just been me, but for me, I just found it so reassuring that someone that didn't know me didn't not like me, but didn't like me because she didn't know me. She had no sort of affection for me like friends and family do. Yet here she was, she
Yeah.
wanted to help. So then for me, that was so reassuring to think, oh, someone that's actually not in my little bubble of friends, they still want to help me. And from my
Yeah.
point of view, when sort of my sort of self worth was quite low, for some complete stranger to actually take the time to try and help me was actually quite uplifting
Yeah.
without me realizing that at first. Looking back, it was quite uplifting.
Yeah. And that's it with everybody's mental health. Everybody wants to feel like they've got a purpose
Mm,
and feel like they've got a role to do, sort of, especially through lockdown. What is your role? What is your purpose? If you're still working, you're still in a similar train track to what you
mm,
were before. But if you're now not working, or you're on furlough, or you've been made redundant, that train track goes off in another direction.
exactly. Yeah.
You've just sort of almost got to find your purpose or find something to occupy yourself. Like
Mm,
you've done all these podcasts
mm,
to just give you a little bit of focus
yeah.
through that time and direction. But I think sometimes when people get so low, you can't see the wood from the trees.
No,
You're sort of a
exactly.
little bit more.
I must admit, until I'd suffered myself, I'd completely underestimated the powers of your mind. And
Yeah,
when you are low, it's like I'd say to someone, "Oh, just talk about it or get out the house." But when you are in that situation, the thought of talking about it or the thought of leaving the house is so daunting. But then you know
yeah,
you should, but then you can't, and you don't want to, but you should, and it's just this circle of vicious circle. And I just think sometimes people just need to trust someone a little bit more and just take that first step. And then once you take that first step, this carry on walking as much as you can and just keep trying to keep positive and going forward.
so if you found you're in that situation, and somebody said to you, you're okay, would you find yourself saying, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I would. Yeah,
yeah,
just out of pure fear of them asking too many questions, and all of a sudden I felt a bit vulnerable, and I hated
yeah,
feeling vulnerable. And when I spoke about my problems, and I felt like the things I would say would make me feel weak and seem weak, it would make me so anxious. And I'd never suffered with anxiety until I started to talk about it, which
yeah.
some people could listen to and think, oh well, why would I want to talk about it if it's going to make me anxious? But the effects of not talking about it would have been a lot worse than if I spoke about it, accepted that I was going to maybe suffer with a little bit of anxiety, and then just work on it.
And I think over the years of knowing you and you talking about it, I've seen you grow in strength and
Mm,
character, where it does make you stronger. And you just employ your own coping strategies. And it might be that you can never get rid of whatever's causing that stress or anxiety
mm,
or whatever it is, but you learn ways to how to cope with it so that you can get on with everyday life.
mm. Yeah, I mean,
So it's, yeah,
someone asked me a little while ago if I felt that I was the person I was before my depression and stuff. If I've gone back to being that person again, and I think they were quite surprised when I said no. I think they were expecting me to say, yeah, I'm that person again, but I'm not. I'm nowhere near that person anymore. I'm a completely different person, but for the
nobody
good.
can go back.
Yeah, I'd say I'm a lot stronger mentally now than I was before depression, because I'd never, apart from my mum dying, I'd never experienced letdown or heartache or anything like that. So to experience it and overcome it and be that close to taking my own life, but not doing it, and fighting my own head and winning, it's now made me a lot stronger. And I look
Definitely.
back and
Yeah.
I'm not glad I went through it, but at the same time I'm not embarrassed by it. I think that's why I'm so passionate with doing these sort of things, because I'm not embarrassed by it at all. Yeah, I've got some scars on my arm, but I'm now a lot stronger mentally. Physically, I'm a lot stronger.
Yeah.
My friends, I'd say, I've got better friends now for it. And I'm not saying everyone's got to go through something like that to be a better person, but sometimes when you are dealt a bad hand, your
Yeah.
mindset and things you do, it can make you a better, stronger person.
And it's just having that connection with your inner self as
Mm,
well, and understanding you.
yeah,
Um, and to be able to understand you helps understand others
exactly that.
as
Yeah,
well.
but
But yeah,
what would you say is sort of good things to not avoid mental health problems, but just to keep yourself sort of healthy mentally, and because I'm sure a lot of people are sort of just stuck indoors at the minute. So what advice would you give to
Yeah.
someone at this moment in
Well,
time?
again, there's lots on the TV, lots coming out at the moment where people are saying, look, go for a walk, get some fresh air, do some exercise, get those endorphins going in your body, which create positivity. It might be finding a new hobby. I know during the sort of the first part of lockdown, when we had sort of 3 or 4 weeks where all of a sudden it was like, I'm not going to be working.
Mm,
And it was, that hardly ever happens. We're just on the go too much. So it was like, right, I'm going to blitz that room. I'm going to blitz that room, and blitz every room in the house, because you think, right, I've got the time and the opportunity
mm,
to do it. I'm going to grab that chance while I can. And then as lockdown sort of eased and they went back in, it's like, okay, we've got a bit more time now. It's not as urgent to do those jobs or painting jobs. We've got time. So it's just sort of looking around you and thinking, what do you want to do? Is it, oh, that room needed painting, so
mm,
we'll do some painting or some craft, or using a skill. Maybe you might learn a new skill, learn how to use all the technology of
mm,
Zoom, and obviously the some of the first aid is very physical. You're face to face with people, but thankfully I've been able to deliver a lot of basic life support sessions to GP surgeries,
mm,
to keep that contact going with work, but doing it online instead.
mm.
Instead of doing the mental health courses face to face, we're doing them online.
Yeah.
um, so some people might be able to still work from home, and then it's whatever you're juggling, whether it's the children, as well. But it's finding different different strategies really to keep busy, keep focused. Um, like you, if you feel like you need a chat with somebody, think about who can you phone
Mm,
or video call or something like that.
mm,
Who's going to be free at the moment? Because actually, they may be feeling the same
yeah.
and maybe feeling quite down,
Mm,
or sort of, I'm not very busy, I'm trying to fill my days. So to you to just grab the phone and have a half an hour chat,
mm,
that might make their day. And if it makes them smile, they might do the same to somebody else. So all of a sudden, those smiles of positivity have just grown because they've just gone to somebody else,
mm,
and on to the next person, next person.
yeah.
So it's just sharing that
I,
positivity, really.
I think as well that the difficulty is this time around compared to last is obviously the first lockdown, it was beautiful sunshine near on every day.
Yeah.
So, you'd happily go and sit in the garden, and people were taking advantage and going for long walks and things like that. Whereas now, I mean, there's always a little bit of negativity around winter anyway, because it's dark, you wake up in the dark, and then by the time you get home from work, it's dark, and it's this an all round sort of doom and gloom area
Having,
of the year. So
having a dog definitely helps.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I must admit, my dog's never
Outdoors.
had so many walks since COVID. I mean, I'm surprised he's not knackered now, but
Yeah.
yeah, just any excuse for me, any excuse to go outside, and if it's not raining, just go for a walk and things like that. That's something that's helped me, just a bit of fresh air. And this, as
Yeah.
well, when I mean, Izzy goes to work at about 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And normally I was no, if I was on a day off or something, I'd never get up at 7 o'clock. But this, I think, you know what, I'm awake now, so I just get up, have a shower, and I'm downstairs by 7:30. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that's helped, although it's something quite small. Just not laying in bed all day and just getting up, getting dressed, cleaning your teeth, even though you're not going anywhere. If you're a girl, just doing your makeup, doing your hair as if you was getting ready to go somewhere. Just it makes you feel a bit better about yourself. And I think there's nothing worse
Yeah.
than just sitting in your dressing gown all day every day.
Mm. And it's building sort of little routines into your day, and that sort of helps to just add that. What are you going to do today?
Mm,
So whether it's mundane things like your washing and things like that, or whether it's, right, well, I'm going to do a little yoga session at this
mm,
time, or I'm going to do some exercise at this time. I'll use this to phone a friend, or this couple of hours is work. Or so it's just juggling your day and just trying to get that little bit of routine
mm.
just to keep you going day to
Yeah,
day.
just giving each day a purpose, I think, will be a big
Yeah,
help as well.
definitely.
Just not not taking a day for granted. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love a day in front of the telly as much as anyone else, but I try to avoid doing that too much. Like I'll do a bit of exercise in the morning. There's so many different sort of virtual classes available online at the minute. A lot of them free as well, which I think is really good.
Hmm.
And just giving each day a bit of purpose, and like I said, getting up, cleaning your teeth, getting dressed, and just treating every day as if it's a normal day. You're just not going to work, rather than treating every day like a day off, which I was guilty of doing at first. There were some days I wouldn't even get out of my shorts. I'd just stay in my shorts, dressing gown, wouldn't clean my teeth till lunchtime, until someone was getting home for us. Oh, should probably brush my teeth.
Yeah.
Whereas now I'm a lot more sort of focused on each day, and that's what, like I said, doing these podcasts, it gives me something to do, and
Just a
having a
short-term
purpose
goals
is
rather
helpful.
than a long one.
Yeah,
It's the short ones.
yeah,
Um,
definitely, definitely.
and just keep riding that wave.
Mm,
And it's okay if you don't feel okay, because there's other people that are not going to feel okay, but just try and come up with that strategy of how you're going to pick yourself back up and carry on. One of the exercises we do on all the mental health courses is like you have your stress bucket.
mm.
So think about, or like your glass. Hold up your glass for me, Tom. Hold up your glass. So how much water's in there? Oh, there's not too much
No, not too
water.
much.
So think of any stress that you've got is a bit of water
Mm.
going in.
That's not too much then. That's all right.
Not too much. So you're quite chill
Yeah, I'm
today.
chilled at the minute.
And we just want to release that water out of the bucket. So every now and again, you're having a drink, you're releasing that water,
Yeah.
keep coping with that stresses. But if the stresses keep mounting up and that glass is now overflowing,
Mm.
that's when we're not coping with the situation.
Yeah.
We're not able to deal with things and see clearly, because it's all overflowing. So we'll look at sort of everybody and just what sort of stresses are in their life at the moment, and then look at lots of coping strategies like we've just gone through. Well, we could exercise, we could
Mm.
talk to friends, do a hobby, read a book, go in the bath,
Mm.
whatever your coping strategies are, and hopefully for the majority of us it will keep everybody just riding that wave.
Mm.
But for those that do take a dip into depression, so they're having more down days than they are up days, at least we can start thinking about, and the course will look at starting conversations with people and just give you skills and tips of how to start conversations, how to listen, and we use lots of different videos, to just help people associate with it and just be able to connect with somebody,
Mm.
um, and then take it from there. And I think there's a lot of emphasis now in the workplace, where workplaces now need to train somebody up to be a first aider for mental health. Not necessarily the manager, just somebody in the workforce that could be there, or everybody in the workforce. Because if you do the course and you do it together, you make connections with each other,
Mm.
which improves that relationship and that bond. So
Yeah.
um, the
It's,
one
it's
day
funny. It's
course,
funny you say there about not being a manager, because if I luckily where we work, it's all quite informal and relaxed anyway. But if I worked somewhere that was quite stressful, like a quite a high intense office or something like that, the last person I'd probably want to talk to about my issues would be my big scary manager. So
yeah,
I think it's like I said, I think it is important to have like an employee sort of person that who's one of you and that you trust, but at the same time you feel comfortable enough to talk about something like that.
yeah,
Like for us, we said before about Callum doing something like
yeah.
that, because he's got that sort of authority title, but he's also as
The
welcoming. The
person as
door is
well.
always open.
Yeah. Because a manager can easily say my door's always open, but
Mm.
if people don't feel confident to
No,
step in
exactly.
and talk,
Yeah.
it's so again, workplaces, it might not be that they have one person, because that one person might not be the best person for everybody,
Mm.
but it might be, okay, we're going to have two, three, four, or
Mm.
actually, shall we all go on the course?
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
We can all help each other.
Exactly. Yeah. I think
Um,
as well there should be more sort of information out there in terms of helping people, because it's all really good saying, oh, you should talk more, but there are other ways of helping people, and there are other ways of noticing things in people. And I think if everyone had a little bit more education on this sort of thing, then it would help a lot more people, especially parents. I imagine parents would struggle. I know my dad did. He struggled knowing what to do, what to say, so he didn't say anything. He sort of just shut off. Um,
Yeah.
Purely because, and he's admitted now, looking back, he just didn't know what to say,
No.
what not to say, and how to deal with it.
Yeah.
He had no idea what to say to his, what he thought was this, popular, athletic 20-odd-year-old son. How he didn't know what to say to me. I just don't think he ever imagined I would suffer like I did. Same with my
And
granddad.
that's probably
He's
different
been an older
generations,
person.
aren't
Yeah, yeah. It's I've spoken about it before, but it's the generation thing. I think older people should be a little bit more open minded to how common mental health problems are, and a lot
they?
of
Yeah.
people are suffering in silence. And you shouldn't just write your son or daughter off because you don't think that they would ever suffer. Because
Well,
quite frankly, they could, and they might even be.
yeah. Well, the statistics before lockdown was 1 in 4 people could have a mental health issue.
Mm.
And mental health issues can affect 1 in 6 people in a workplace. And if you think of that, that's huge numbers. And
Yeah.
you now COVID's hit and there's more redundancies or there's more changes in situations. More people are going through bereavements now. Um, it's not always positive. There are the negatives, but it's how everyone's now going to cope with it.
Mm.
And we don't want to just bottle it all up
No.
and not talk about it. Um, it's you having those sort of the skills, the awareness, the experience to say, yeah, actually. And from when I did the qualification a couple of years ago, you just think, okay, I'm not a counsellor, but just by helping, just by being there, going for a walk for 20 minutes and we're talking and end up being talking for an hour or
Mm.
whatever it is, it just helps people. Um, and together you might come out with a coping strategy or a solution, or actually, yeah, we do need to go and get you help.
Mm.
Or that first aid scenario of actually, we need to call 999. This is
Yeah.
now serious
Mm.
situation,
Yeah, I think
which I know.
as well, like you said, with COVID and stuff, and there's probably more people suffering now than there was before. I mean,
Mm,
I know from past experience, it is an already really underfunded area of health, the mental health section. There's not really the people there, the experts. There's not the money in it to offer everyone that's suffering the help they need. So I think that just reiterates even more that you need to be able to trust your friends and family enough to talk to them, because
yeah,
you might get in a situation where the help you really need just isn't there yet. So you need that sort of middle person who could be a friend or family. But if you're not willing to
yeah,
trust them, or your friends aren't willing to do a little bit of research, like I know Callum did. He, when I was suffering once and he weren't sure what to do, he rung a mental health hotline, not
mm,
for himself, but just to say, oh, my friend's really suffering. I don't know what to do. Could you give me any advice on what to do? So then
excellent.
they pointed him in the right direction. My granddad did as well. My granddad printed off a load of information on what I was suffering with, so he had a bit more knowledge of it and understanding. But that just
Which is
comes with going a little, being a bit more out of your
support.
comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that signposting is not necessarily right. Tom, I think you should go and do this.
Mm.
It's a case of right, you're in this situation. I'll find out for you,
Yeah.
and then we can
Yeah. 'Cause I mean,
do
it's
it.
bad
We'll
enough.
do it together.
Yeah, it was bad enough
Mm,
experiencing what I was experiencing, let alone then having to ring loads of different people to try and get the help I need. If anything, I'd rather if someone else had done it for me, and someone would ring me and say, "All right, I'm Bill Smith. I'm here to help," and I would love it for being done that way. But like I said, it's not a particularly funded area, which is a shame. But it just puts a
which
little
is
bit
why
more.
we've got to get it down to
Exactly,
everybody
exactly
helping.
that. Yeah, and I think that's really important.
Yeah. Shall I share that fact sheet with you
Yeah,
so
yeah. Please do. Yeah,
that anyone listening, when they know um, what it is? So can you see it there, Tom?
yeah. I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously Rachel Callister is myself, just helping. Let's take that other way. Just helping you all learn and practice skills to save a life, whether that is first aid or whether that's first aid for mental health. So there's the sort of the the statistics there that sort of 1 in 4 people in the UK will experience a mental health condition, and at least 1 in 6 employers experience common mental health problems in the workplace. What those statistics will be coming back once we've sort of emerging even more out of the COVID pandemic, they might even be higher. So employers do need to take responsibility for the welfare of their workforce, as well as just their workplace. And it's shown that if you have got a healthy workforce, they're going to be more productive, and end up making the company more money in the long run. So it's sort of starting at the grassroots level and showing that help. So there's 3 different levels of the qualification. You've got level 1, which is 4 hours, which is an awareness qualification. Level 2 is the award in first aid for mental health, which is the equivalent of 6 hours. Sorry, not 6 days, 6 hours. And again, you can do it again, it's a whole day with lots of breaks, or you can split it into like little 2-hour modules. The level 3 is the award in supervising first aid for mental health, and this is a 12-hour qualification over 2 days, or again over a number of different sessions. We were doing these all face-to-face, but now I'm delivering these online. So it's not just a local catchment area we can do now. I was on a course the other day, we had people from Manchester, big teams getting together up there, all corners of the UK that we can get together for people. So you might find you want to do it with family that are scattered around the country, or you might want to do it with your friends and they're all scattered around the country, but it gets you together to talk about it. And then I've done a little tick box here, so it just shows you what you cover on the 3 qualifications. So what is mental health, identifying the different health conditions, and talking and listening, and your basic stress and anxiety is what you'll cover with the awareness. With the 1 day first aid for mental health, you'll then think about people going into depression a little bit more, maybe turning to drink, drugs, and how it can affect the workplace, and what employees and employers can do to help that workplace. Because if you think about it, we spend hours at work, so that is a big chunk of our day where we need to feel positive.
You probably spend more time at work than you do at home a lot of the time.
Yeah, so we want those sort of employers to really engage with this and sort of help and support the workplace. And then for those people that want to go into a little bit more depth on mental health, or maybe they're a supervisor or more senior in the workplace, they can then move on to the level 3 award in supervising first aid for mental health. And you can see the sort of topics that you discuss there. So you've got the post-traumatic stress disorder, self-harm, suicide. So we're just going down that side. Your eating disorders, personality disorders, talking about bipolar, psychosis, schizophrenia. So it does go into more in depth.
Yeah, that level 3 covers an awful lot, doesn't it?
A huge lot. But if you have this qualification in your workplace, again, it doesn't mean that you're a counsellor. It doesn't mean that you're that person that can deal with it. It might just be the fact that you've now got more experience, more skills to recognize in other people those signs and symptoms that they're struggling, and having that confidence to think, let's just make that connection, let's just talk about it. I can put myself in your shoes because of this experience that I've had. Or it might be, I can't put myself in your shoes, or I can't imagine how you're feeling, but this is how I would like to support you, or how do you want me to support you? And have that confidentiality in the workplace as well, so that you can sort of deal with any issues, and then it just gives you the confidence that you can go elsewhere to ask for help. The assessment on it is really, really straightforward, so I wouldn't want the assessment to put anybody off. the questions are just like a discussion like we're having now.
Mm.
What do you think mental health is? And you say your answer and we have a discussion about it. So it's not formal exam papers
No.
and things like that. It's more discussion. And we do lots of I just stopped sharing that one there. And we do lots of different case studies through the day where you can pretend to be somebody, whether it's a real situation or if people haven't got that experience or weren't sharing it, it might be, well, you pretend to be this and you're
Mm.
stressed because you've got your children at home homeschooling. And Tom, can you be the first aider in the workplace? How would you then deal with it? So you sort of test your scenarios just like you might do within your first aid
Yeah.
qualification.
It
So yeah,
definitely looks like a really informative course, and for anyone out there that, whether they're in a workplace or a parent that just wants a bit of extra information, I'd definitely suggest doing it. We spoke uh, pre-lockdown, didn't we, about me, Callum, and a couple of other people
yeah,
from work doing it. Just one for the
yeah. So we can do that,
benefits
get you all
of work.
together.
Yeah, but two,
While you're on furlough and you're off work,
yeah, yeah,
more time.
yeah. Why not?
Yeah, rather than waiting to get back to work, because then as soon as you're back to work, you won't have the time to do it.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah,
all
exactly.
extra time, you'll want to catch up with family and friends and
Mm.
things like that. So yeah, so now's definitely the time to sort of try and get on board and do more of those awareness sessions.
Yeah, I mean, I think people should take advantage of the situation we're in now, because we would like to think you'd never get this sort of chance where you have this much time on your hands to, like you said, learn new things and do online courses that you probably wouldn't have ever had the time with before. So yeah, so
Yeah,
why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you widen your
I
knowledge a
think
little bit further?
during the first lockdown, I sort of did obviously supporting the girls doing their homeschooling. It was like, well, I'll come and study while you're studying,
Mm.
just to help them get into it. And did so many CPD courses, whether it was first aid, life saving, swimming teaching, and absolutely loads of CPD. So
Well,
it's
thank you very
cooled
much,
off a little
Rachel.
bit.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
thank you very much for coming on. I know a lot of people listening, I think would really benefit from what we've spoken about today, whether it's from signs to look for or just little home remedies. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
And if anyone does want to do the courses, either get in touch, sort of comments through you. Obviously, on the fact sheet was my details as well. Just feel free to sort of email, drop me a line. I can send you more information, and we'll get more awareness out there.
Definitely. Well, like I said,
Brilliant.
Rachel, really appreciate it, and stay safe and look after yourself.
Yep, you too.
Okay.
Take care, everybody.
See you later, Rachel.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that is the end of today's episode. Big thank you to Rachel for taking the time out of her busy schedule to talk to us today. I think she's really opened my eyes a little bit further with things like statistics and things like that, and a bit more knowledge. And that was the idea really for today's episode, was to this give everyone a little bit more insight into mental health as a whole, but also what Rachel has said there today has come from someone that does have qualifications in that field, and she's not necessarily just talking from personal experience like I do. She actually has a wider knowledge, and I really hope that some of the things she said and the course she can offer as well will really help people listening, or if you know that someone that could benefit, then pass this video on to them. But yeah, today that is the end of the episode. And thank you everyone for keep tuning into all of the episodes and supporting what I'm doing. And yeah, I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks everyone.